I've never cared much for family dinners. They're like reality TV shows, except no one gets voted off the table. You just sit there week after week, nodding politely while your relatives parade their latest fake achievements. But last Friday, that was a masterpiece of humiliation, and I was the unwilling star. My name's Holly. I'm 32. I'm an investor, but not the kind you see on LinkedIn throwing buzzwords like scalability and blockchain synergy around like confetti. I like to keep things quiet, private, controlled. I fund tech startups, mostly AI and fintech. My sister Brianna has never understood what I do. She works in marketing for some luxury skincare company. She calls herself a brand visionary, whatever that means. To her, unless you're in stilettos stomping down Madison Avenue with an oat milk latte in one hand and a tiny dog in the other, you're just not worth noticing. Anyway, the dinner. It was one of those exhausting extended family things, held at my parents' house in Connecticut. Long table, white tablecloth, people sipping wine and pretending to like each other. I had just gotten back from a 2-week trip to Tokyo for a startup pitch event. My jet lag had jet lag, but I still showed up. Because when your mom calls and says, "Sweetheart, Brianna will be there, and she's bringing her new boyfriend," you know she's not asking. She's telling. So I walked in, wearing my usual black blazer and jeans, hair in a bun, no makeup. Brianna took one look at me from across the room and smirked. "Oh, look," she said loudly. "Holly's dressed for a job interview, or is this the tech investor look now?" Some people chuckled. My uncle choked on his Chardonnay. I ignored it. Not worth it. We all sat down. The food came out. Salmon, wild rice, asparagus, the usual Pinterest-worthy spread. I tried to make small talk with my cousin Emily about her new baby, but Brianna couldn't help herself. "So, Holly," she said, flipping her hair like she was in a shampoo commercial. "What exactly is it that you do again? You invest in ideas, right? Sounds so vague." She smiled sweetly. "The kind of sweet that gives you cavities." I kept my voice calm. "I fund early-stage tech startups, mostly in artificial intelligence and cybersecurity." Brianna blinked. "Right. So, basically gambling with someone else's money?" Laughter. Around the table. Someone actually said, "Burn." I clenched my fork. "I use my own capital," I said, "and I do pretty well." "Oh, sure," Brianna said. "But do you actually work? Or is this just something you do until you marry? Someone rich?" That got everyone's attention. Even my dad looked up from his mashed potatoes. I laughed. "But it was dry, Brianna," I said. "I've funded 3 companies that have been acquired by Fortune 500s in the last 2 years. One of them is now part of Amazon's logistics AI." She waved her hand. "Blah, blah, blah. Still sounds fake." Then she turned to her boyfriend. "Jake, don't you agree? Isn't it funny when people pretend their hobbies are jobs?" Jake looked uncomfortable. Tall guy. Good hair. Expensive watch. Clearly didn't expect to be dragged into the war zone. I think investing's pretty serious, actually," he said. Brianna gave him a look. "Please. It's not like she has a boss or a team. It's just her and her laptop and some spreadsheets. Meanwhile, I manage campaigns for a product line that grosses 8 figures annually." Oh, the humble brag. Classic Brianna. I let her have her moment. I smiled. But, deep down, I was done playing nice. I decided to stay quiet for the rest of dinner, let her bask in her fake superiority, because I had a little secret. See, a few months ago, I invested in a beauty tech startup, one that uses AI to create personalized skincare regimens. The tech was revolutionary. I was the lead investor. And guess who was just acquired by a major luxury brand 2 weeks ago? Yup. Her company and the merger finalized last Thursday, which means, technically speaking, I'm now an investor in the company Brianna works for, but I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. Not at that table. I wanted the reveal to be theatrical. So I waited. The next day, I called a friend who knew the CEO of the skincare brand. I told her what happened at dinner. We laughed for a solid 10 minutes. Then she said, "Let me set something up. Come by the office Tuesday. We'll make it fun." Oh, it was going to be more than fun. Tuesday came. I walked into their headquarters, in Manhattan wearing a navy pantsuit and heels. Hair down, makeup sharp, every bit the executive. Receptionist. Can I help you? Yes. I'm here for the 10 a.m. with Mr. Lattimore. Her eyes widened slightly. She called upstairs. 10 minutes later, I was sipping coffee in a glass-walled conference room with the CEO, Jonathan Lattimore. He was charming, cunning, and completely on board with what I wanted to do. She doesn't know who the new investors are yet, he said, grinning. This will be educational. We planned it for Friday, the quarterly team presentation. Open floor, all departments attending, including Brianna's. She'd be presenting the new marketing direction for Q3, and I'd be introduced as one of the strategic investors evaluating brand alignment. My name was on the internal memo. She didn't see it, but she'd see me soon. Enough. Friday arrived. I walked into the presentation room like I owned the place, because technically, I kind of did. I took a seat in the front row. Everyone around me whispered, wondering who I was. Then Brianna walked in. Clipboard in hand, pencil skirt, confidence oozing, until she saw me. Her face froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. She blinked, swallowed, then plastered on a smile. Holly, she said. What are you doing here? I didn't stand, just smiled back, taking notes. Before she could ask more, the CEO took the mic. Thank you all for coming. Today's presentation is being observed by one of our strategic investors, someone who recently joined us through the acquisition. Please welcome Holly Olson. A ripple of shock went through the room, all eyes on me. Brianna turned the color of skim milk. The CEO continued. Holly has deep experience in AI integration and branding. She's here to evaluate how our teams are aligning with the company's new innovation-focused mission. So, be sharp. Then he nodded to Brianna. Your turn. She stepped up, shaking just slightly. And as she started to speak, I leaned back, calm, smiling. Because this was only the beginning. There's a unique pleasure in watching someone eat their own words, especially when they're the kind of person who's been feeding you a steady diet of insults for years. That Friday morning, in that sleek, glass-walled Manhattan conference room, Brianna finally realized she wasn't the smartest person in the room, and I didn't have to say a single word. She stood at the front with her branded slides in perfect posture, trying to pitch her vision for Q3 like her life depended on it, because in a way, it did. See, with the new merger, everything was being reevaluated. Budgets, campaigns, staff. And the CEO made it very clear that investors like me were going to have a say in the new direction. Translation: the game had changed. And Brianna? She didn't even know the rules anymore. She stumbled through the beginning of her presentation. Her voice had that forced chirpiness she uses when she's faking confidence. Slide after slide. Keywords like elevated branding, aspirational identity, synergistic influence. It was like watching a TED Talk from someone who never actually did the research. I just sat there, pen in hand, nodding occasionally. At one point, she looked right at me and said, "We believe our current approach aligns with modern consumer values, especially in terms of luxury and authenticity." I raised an eyebrow. No smile, just the kind of expression that makes people second-guess everything they've ever said. After she finished, the room clapped politely. The CEO thanked her, then turned to me. "Holly, would you like to share any insights?" "Oh, I would." I stood up slowly, smoothed my blazer, walked to the front with a calm, deliberate pace. Brianna stepped back like she'd just seen a ghost. I turned to the team. First of all, great energy in the room. Clearly a lot of passion, but I clicked the remote and pulled up my own slide deck. You're targeting Gen Z and millennials who value personalization, transparency, and tech integration. Yet your current campaign feels like it's been recycled from 2014. A nervous laugh somewhere in the back. I looked directly at Brianna. Branding is about more than pretty fonts and buzzwords. It's about data, behavioral insight, smart content pipelines, AI-driven segmentation. Then I pulled up heat maps from their last two campaigns. This is what disengagement looks like. Click-through rates below industry standard. Engagement drop-off after 3 seconds. Brianna's face was pale. I clicked again. This is what my startup has been solving for, with predictive algorithms that adjust product recommendations in real time. That's what your consumers expect, and it's what I expect as an investor. Silence. Then the CEO smiled. Excellent points. We'll be revisiting the current strategy. Brianna, please set up a one-on-one with Holly next week to discuss revisions. I turned to her, smiled sweetly, and said, looking forward to it. I left the room feeling 10 feet tall, but I wasn't done. Not even close. That weekend, I went home and poured myself a glass of red wine. I sat by the window, watching the city buzz below, thinking back to every time Brianna had dismissed me. Every time she told me I wasn't really working. Every time she laughed when I skipped family trips to take meetings in Singapore or Berlin. Every time she said I was wasting my life on tech nonsense. And now? She worked for me, and she had no idea just how deep I was embedded. Because here's the thing Brianna didn't know. I wasn't just an investor in her company. I was part of a 5-person board advisory group brought in during the acquisition. We weren't just funding, we were restructuring, and we had a say in leadership decisions, including staffing. Monday morning, I got a calendar invite. Marketing review, Holly Olson and Brianna Carter. I could already imagine her frantically Googling terms like how to impress an investor who hates you. I arrived early. She showed up exactly on time, wearing a bright blue blazer like she was trying to distract from the panic in her eyes. Holly, she said, her voice a little too high. So great to see you again. What a surprise last week, right? I smiled. Let's sit. I opened my laptop, not even looking at her. Before we begin, I just want to say, she started, I've always admired what you do. It's just that. Investing felt so abstract to me, but I get it now, totally. The desperation in her voice? Delicious. I'm glad, I said, because abstract or not, I have a mandate. The board wants recommendations on performance optimization, and I've been reviewing the marketing department's structure. She nodded eagerly. Of course. I'd love to share what I've built over the last year. The team, the strategy, the creative process. I've already seen it, I cut her off. And frankly, it's bloated, top-heavy. You've built an echo chamber of personal taste, not performance metrics. Her smile faltered. I continued. Your campaigns prioritize aesthetic over analytics. You're optimizing for your own vision, not the user's needs. It's classic legacy marketing. Pretty, loud, and obsolete. She opened her mouth to defend herself, but I raised a hand. The company's shifting toward performance-based leadership. We want people who understand both brand and numbers. People who can adapt. And then I leaned in just slightly. Can you adapt, Brianna? She stared at me, speechless. I waited. After a long pause, she nodded. Yes, absolutely. I closed my laptop. Good. Then here's what I'm proposing. I slid a printed copy of my restructuring draft across the table. Her name wasn't on the leadership chart. Instead, she was listed under Marketing Strategy Consultant, probationary basis. She blinked at the paper. I don't understand. I stood, calm, controlled. I've already spoken with Jonathan. The change takes effect next month. You'll report to the new head of digital strategy. You'll have the opportunity to prove your value if you want to stay on. Her eyes welled up. You're demoting me? I picked up my bag. I'm realigning roles based on performance. It's nothing personal. But we both knew it was very, very personal. As I walked out, I paused at the door. Oh, and Brianna? She looked up, her voice cracking. Yeah? Next time you mock someone's job in front of a room full of people, make sure they don't own the building. The funny thing about power? People only respect it when it's visible. Up until that Friday dinner, Brianna never saw me as anything more than the weird tech sister. Now? She couldn't look me in the eye without scanning for landmines. After our meeting, she went radio silent. No snarky group texts. No Instagram stories about how boss babes don't sleep. Just silence. I'd love to say that I felt guilty. But come on, this was long overdue. For years, I let her take shots at me because I thought it didn't matter. Let her call my work fake, my life lonely, my job not real. But the truth is, Sometimes people like Brianna only understand lessons when they're printed on company letterhead. And this lesson? Oh, it was just getting started. Because demoting Brianna wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a company-wide cleanse. See, when we acquired the skincare brand, the marketing department was one of the biggest red flags on the books. It was all smoke and mirrors. Pretty campaigns with zero substance. Inflated budgets. Inflated egos. The board agreed with me, and they wanted me to handle it. So I did. Over the next 2 weeks, I quietly led a full audit of the department. I sat in on meetings. I reviewed budgets. I analyzed campaign ROI. It was like watching a high-end fashion show where all the models were wearing numbers instead of outfits, and most of the scores were failing. Brianna? She tried to play the team player card. She sent me long emails, suggestions, ideas, thinly disguised pleas for relevance. But I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in her saving face. I was interested in saving the company from itself. So when the time came to restructure the department, I recommended something bold. Dismantle the old team. Build a new one from scratch. Data-first creatives. Tech-savvy marketers. People who could translate emotion into analytics, not just color palettes. And guess who I tapped to lead that new team? Not Brianna. Her new supervisor was a woman named Lexi, a brilliant, soft-spoken strategist who came from a startup I had funded in Austin. Lexi didn't do office gossip. She didn't care about designer heels. She cared about clean code and clean numbers. The opposite of Brianna in every way. When the internal memo went out, I got a text from Brianna, just 3 words. You did this. I stared at the screen, thought about it for a second, then replied, No, you did. 2 weeks later, I attended the quarterly board meeting. It was held at the company's midtown office, top floor, all glass and city views. I wore navy again. Always navy when I mean business. As I walked into the boardroom, I passed Brianna in the hall. She was carrying a box of files. Her badge was clipped to her sweater, but no one said her name as she passed. She glanced up at me. And for the first time in our lives, she looked small. Not physically. She still had that perfect posture, that curated look, but small in spirit. The way people look when they realize they aren't the main character anymore. She didn't say a word. And I didn't stop. Inside the boardroom, the air was electric. We'd just launched the AI-powered skincare platform I'd helped fund. The beta response was through the roof. Personalized regimens, adaptive routines, predictive product suggestions. It was the future, and we were holding the keys. The CEO gave a glowing presentation. Our investor support has transformed the direction of this company, especially the leadership of Holly Olson, who has redefined our approach to marketing, innovation, and data integration. I gave a polite nod. The other board members clapped, but I wasn't thinking about the applause. I was thinking about that salmon dinner 2 months ago, when Brianna laughed and said I didn't have a real job. I wish I could go back in time, not to change it, but to record it. Frame it. Hang it in my office like a trophy. Because here's the real truth she never understood. You don't have to scream to be powerful. You don't have to post about your grind every day. You don't have to prove your value in group chats or family dinners. You just have to move in silence. Build smart. Invest wisely. And wait for the day they finally see you. And when they do, they usually wish they hadn't. But I know what you're thinking. Was that it? Demote her? Replace her? Embarrass her in front of her peers? That's revenge? Oh no, that was the business part. The personal part? That came later. Because Brianna didn't just mock me at that dinner. She did it in front of my family. She made a show of it. She used me as a punchline to make herself look bigger. And I don't forget things like that. So I planned something a little poetic. My parents were throwing a summer party. Big deal, garden tents, catered food, all the family, all the drama. And of course, Brianna would be there. A week before the party, I made a call to one of the founders I funded. They'd just launched a high-end skincare line powered by our AI platform. Fully customized, ultra-luxury, only available to select clients through private consultation. I had a custom set delivered. Not to me, to my mother. With a card. For the woman who raised a visionary. Love. H. My mom called me in tears. She thought it was the most beautiful gift she'd ever received. At the party, she couldn't stop talking about it. This serum adjusts to your stress levels, she said, holding it up. Isn't that incredible? Holly's startup developed the whole thing. Brianna's face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. Wait, she said. That's yours? I just smiled. One of many. Then my aunt chimed in. Brianna, don't you work in skincare too? Isn't it funny how Holly's brand is the one everyone's talking about now? Brianna forced a laugh. Yeah, so funny. That's when my mom pulled out her phone. She showed me the app. Look, it tracks your skin hydration, sleep, UV exposure, everything. It's so advanced. And the packaging? Gorgeous. She turned to Brianna. You should talk to your boss about this. He could learn a thing or two from Holly. Brianna muttered something about getting more wine. And I just stood there, smiling, because that's what revenge really looks like. Not screaming, not slamming doors, just standing quietly in a room where your enemy is shrinking by the second. Later that evening, as the sun set over the garden, Brianna approached me, glass of wine in hand, eyes sharp, voice low. You humiliated me. I turned to her. You did that yourself. She stepped closer. You've always been jealous of me. I laughed. Brianna, I never wanted to be you. I just wanted you to stop treating me like a joke. And now? You're the punchline. She stared at me, then walked away. I didn't watch her leave. I was too busy laughing, because sometimes the best way to silence someone is to let your success speak louder than their ego ever could. And mine was screaming.